I want a show of hands to everybody under the sound of my voice. How many out there know how to type? That's just about all of you, I think. There's a couple in the back holding out, but I think you know how to type. How many understand the letters of the alphabet and the King's English? And what am I getting at here? Photoshop is not a typesetting program. For the last few lessons, we've been talking about putting words on the screen, and that's fine. If I'm doing words on a screen, I'm going to InDesign, and I'm not teaching InDesign, am I? I'm teaching Photoshop. So I want to get out of the typing mode and get into the effects mode. And these next 3 lessons in a row are going to be some ways that we can creatively work with Adobe Photoshop and text. You with me? Let's get started. First thing we're going to do in this lesson is what I call wire text. Now, I'm introducing a new tool. It's one you may or may not use. It's the tool over here that actually looks like a horizontal selection. Now, that's actually called the horizontal type mask tool. Select it. Create a new layer. In this layer, I want you to type a word. I'm going to type in the word wired. Now, if you'll notice, I'm using a font called Plaza D. I want an elegant font for this. You may not have Plaza. There's a lot of them out there. Choose a nice, elegant font for what we're going to do. And I think Plaza is an elegant font. Let's make that font bigger. Remember what we're doing here. We're making a selection. I'm going to knock that up to 200 points. That's a big wired. If I get off of the text tool and go to my selection tool, you can see indeed it's nothing but a selection. That's all it is. I want you to make sure that layer that right now has nothing in it but that selection, make sure it's selected. Actually, let's call that wired. Why not? Give it a name. In the wired layer, I want you to go up and choose a color, any color, it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, we'll just leave it at that color. You'll be able to see it. Go to the word Edit on the pull-down menu and go down to Stroke. Now, what Stroke does in Adobe Photoshop is it will create a line based on a selection. It will stroke my selection. Click Stroke. We're going to do 3. That's actually fine. On center. Doesn't matter what the color is. Just click OK. I'm going to press Control D, which is deselect. And as you can see, we have the word wired, but it isn't really a word. It is simply paint on the screen. That's all this is. Forget about it being text. It may look like it, but it isn't. Step number 2. Select that layer. Go into our FX button right down here. Love that button. And go into Bevel and Emboss. Just the beginning. We'll leave it at an inner bevel, smooth. We won't actually change any of the options. You can play around with it, but I'm happy with that. Come over here into Gradient Overlay. And in Gradient Overlay, let's go ahead and choose a different overlay color on the gradient. Let's use one of these. Pick a fancy one with a lot of colors, like maybe one of these down here. I'm actually going to change the angle to 180. I can't move that thing. I always have to type the numbers in. So we've got it going left and right. And to give it just a little bit more oomph, slap a drop shadow on that thing. And there you go. Now watch this though. If I move the distance, I can influence how we feel that word is off and against that background. Click OK. Wired text, courtesy of the tool that's actually been there for a while, the type masking tool, to create the selection that we did the stroke with, to create the text. Different fonts will produce different results, but I like elegant fonts because it really does look like wireframe.